We're starting week 17. It's Monday. We're going to start number systems this week, which is going to be integers is going to be where we're going to start, and that's looking at positive and negative numbers. So hopefully this week, well today in particular, should be a quick review. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on today because I feel like most of you are already familiar with today. So we have a number line. All of the numbers to the right of 0 are going to be positive, and the numbers to the left of 0 are going to be negative. Now 0 is considered neutral. It's just in the middle. It's not considered positive or negative. It is kind of a special number. So we're going to look at putting these positive and negative numbers into words and then reading that number line. So if you think of below 0, we just said below 0 would be a negative. So 6 degrees Fahrenheit below 0 would be a negative 6. A gain of 40 yards, if you gain, that would be a positive. Now, we do not have to put a positive sign for positive numbers because if there's no negative, it is just considered to be positive numbers. So we don't have to put a little plus sign there. A profit of 4 is going to be a positive 4. A loss would be a negative 10. This says 68 degrees Fahrenheit above 0. So if you're above, that's going to be a positive. And if you're falling would be a negative. So just simply taking words and putting positive and negatives with them. Now we're going to look at this number line and determine what number is the letter sitting on and then what is the opposite of it. So Q is at negative 7. So the opposite of negative would be positive 7. Number 8 says find R. Well, when I look at R, that is at number 2. So R is 2, and the opposite would be negative 2. So now find S. S is at negative 4. So S is negative 4, and the opposite would be positive 4. Again, we don't have to put a plus 4 because if it's just a 4, it's understood to be positive. T, if you find T, T is over here at positive 6. So T is 6, and the opposite would be negative 6. V is at negative 1. So the opposite of negative is positive 1. Now let's skip down here and do Y. Y is at 0. And so the opposite of 0 is 0. There's really no opposite there. Remember, it is just kind of special. Now, if we think about, I'm going to put this number line back up here real quickly that we just did. Now, if we think about money, when I compare these numbers, I like to always think about money. So if I am thinking about money, then the higher I go this way, the more money I have and the better off I am. I don't want to go in the negative because of the bank account in the negative, when it's in the negative, it shows red. So we don't want to be this way. But if we think about negative numbers and positive numbers when we compare them, to me it's easier if we think about it like money. So if we look at number 1 together, this says, and again, I'm going to think of it like money. I think y'all used to talk about when you were in lower grades, less than. If you see the little part first, that's called less than. If you see the big part first, that's called greater than. And you used to talk about an alligator, I think, when you were in lower grades. Which number is the alligator going to grab or eat? So we're not talking about eating. I'm talking about money. So you can think about this hand like let me see, I can't get it in the picture. Is the hand going to grab? Which one is it going to grab? So you can either lose $5 or you can have 7. So we're going to put the big part, your hand is going to grab that 7 because the 7 is bigger. And that's what you want your hand to grab, is whichever number is bigger. So negative 5, the way we would read this is negative 5 is less than 7 because the 7 is actually bigger. Now, had you rather have no money or had you rather lose money? Well, both of those options are kind of bad when you talk about money, but the best of two evils basically is to have 0 or have nothing. So you would grab the 0, so that would be 0 is greater than negative 2. Now you can either lose 8 or have 8. Well, I don't like to lose money, so I had rather have 8. So the big part is going to face the 8, or like your hand is grabbing for the 8. So negative 8 is less than 8 is the way we would read that. Now we have a choice of having $1 or losing $4. I would rather have $1. So this would be 1 is greater than negative 4. You would grab towards that 1. So do you want to have $17 or do you want to have $25? I'd rather have 25. So the big part's going to face the 25. And the way we read that would be 17 is less than 25. Now here's where it gets a little more confusing. But if you think about it like money, to me it makes it easier. Both choices I'm going to give you are not good choices, but we're going to take the best of what we're offered. We can either lose $12 or we can lose $10. Well, I had rather lose 10 because that's like losing less money. So that would be negative 12 is less than negative 10. I would grab towards that negative 10 because that's the best option. That's the actually the higher number, which seems a little confusing. All right, now I've got to find my papers. My little white papers are lost in misplaced and whatever. Sorry. Got to roll over here and grab some more paper. To me, when we need to number these least to greatest, to me I like to think about a number line. And I like to go ahead and put 0 on my number line, which you can't see that 0, can you? All right. Obviously, on this side of the 0 is the negative numbers. So some people like to start with a negative, some people like to start with a positive. I'm just going to highlight all those negatives. If you want to start with the positive numbers, you can, which in this one it actually gives you the 0. Okay, so we got 0. So then we know on the number line we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we would come to 12 first, and then we would come to the 31. So if we're looking at just the positive numbers, we would have 0, 12, and then 31. Now if we look at our negative numbers, closest to 0, we would find negative 4, and then we would have negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8. We would finally get to negative 12, and then we would get to negative 50. So now you have those ordered from least to greatest, which your answer would be negative 50, negative 12, negative 4, 0, 12, and 31. But sometimes it makes it easier to visualize it on a number line. Okay, if we look at number 8, again, I like to jot down a quick number line. Sometimes it gives us a 0, sometimes it doesn't. In this one, we don't have a 0. I'm going to look at my negative numbers. And again, it doesn't matter if you're doing this number line. It doesn't matter really if you start with a positive or negative. A lot of you like positive because you're more familiar with them, so that's where you start. So if we look at what's going to be above 0, remember these are positive, we would see 1 first, and then we would come to 9, and then we would get to the 23. Most of us are usually pretty good with the positive numbers. Now we've got to think about how, remember when we start to the left of that 0, we would start with negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, so we would get to that negative 5 first, and then we would get to the negative 7, and then the negative 11. So now those are ordered least to greatest for you. So negative 11, negative 7, negative 5, 1, 9, and 23. So I think the number line will probably help you make sure you, especially with those negative numbers, keep them in order. Okay, we're going to do number 9. I like to put a 0 there, just the middle. And if I look at the negative numbers again, or just kind of separate them, if we want to start with a positive, we've got 3 positive numbers. So 62, 45, and 17, what would I come to first? I would come to 17, and then the 45, and then the 62. Now remember, when we're on, go to the left, we're at negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, so we would get to the negative 12 first. And then if we keep on going, we're going to get into the 20s and the 30s and then the negative 40s, so then negative 45 and then negative 64. So again, there's your order least to greatest already for you. All right, one more, and then we're going to try some by yourself. Well, I look up here at these, and they are all negative. So I'm going to put my 0. Oops, I'm sorry, I got out of focus. I'm going to put my 0 way down here at the end. Okay, if I go, I know I start with -1, so I'm going to start with -1, and then I know -2 comes next. And then if I start thinking -3, -4, -5, -6, then I'm going to eventually get to -8. And then I would get to the -14, -19. I didn't make my line big enough, did I? And then -24. So if I put commas there, I've got all of my numbers listed least to greatest. So now it's time to do a little practice, and we will start something different tomorrow.